And yes, welcome everybody to the Nurse Mark and the Green Nurse podcast,
where we bring you hope and inspiration for growth and healing. Sorry, I was just going to say, so you can start your day off the AFA way.
I think we're doing that show every morning in the weekdays, Sherri. It kind of gets in there, doesn't it?
Oh my God, right. So we're here to change the dialogue and stigma around what it means to feel good or be high. Mm-hmm. Hence the H for hope, I for inspiration, G for growth, and H for healing.
Sherri, we talk about things that people generally don't want to talk about. But you know what? It's important to talk about these subjects to decrease the stigma surrounding them for healing.
Yeah, absolutely. And 2021 is the year of the nurse and the midwife. And what we've been doing is we've been highlighting and illuminating cannabis nurses and professionals that are doing amazing things in the cannabis space. We're truly in revolutionary times when we're changing how we approach and take care of patients and our communities.
Yes. Now, listen, we don't all wake up one day and say, hey, let's get into the cannabis industry. There's usually a compelling story that goes along with that plunge. So what makes someone enter into the cannabis space as a nurse? Sherri, please introduce our guest this evening.
I would be very happy to. So welcome, Barbara. Barbara Ochester has her master's in science and nursing and is a registered nurse who began her professional career over 48 years ago. She built a foundation in the bedside nursing while working in the medical, surgical, intensive care, and emergency room departments. She attained leadership roles in each of these units. Barbara continues to have an active clinical practice providing cannabis counseling, wellness clinics, and oral immunotherapy nursing. Barbara believes that each cannabis patient deserves the opportunity to meet with an educator to determine the correct medicine for their symptoms or diseases. Barbara has just completed her doctoral classwork and is ready to dive into the research phase of her degree in health administration and leadership. Her research is going to be focused on cannabis research in the lived experiences of patients. So powerful, I have the goosebumps. Barbara's goal is to contribute to the body of knowledge and build on what we know about using cannabis as an alternative adjunct to traditional treatments and medications. She is passionate about educating other health professionals, patients, and communities around the appropriate and safe use of cannabis as medicine. Education remains a top priority, teaching medical professionals, patients, and caregivers what is available, what works, and how to access and use cannabis and cannabinoid products. Very, very excited to have you here, Barbara. I'm excited to get to know you and to share your experience. You've been a nurse for a really long time.
Yes, I have. A really long time.
I thought I was an old nurse.
A really long time. I'm definitely an old nurse.
48 years. That's amazing.
Old. Let's say seasoned.
Not old. Seasoned. Wise. Right. Yeah. Yes. I know. Well, you think years, when you get into like the 30 years, you're like, wow.
Yeah.
They go by so fast. And, I still feel like I'm 33 years old.
Yeah,
right? And I'm really not.
My head thinks I'm one thing, and my body thinks I'm the other thing.
Yeah, I have that same issue. Yes. Yeah, exactly.
We sort of don't coordinate. Before we get started, I deliberately did not respond to Mark's Facebook post because I wanted to congratulate you here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It's never too late. It's never too late. I think that you will agree. You just defended your dissertation, right?
Yeah.
So you just defended yours. I am just graduating now with my master's at the age of 59.
I know.
And I didn't get my first degree until I was well into my 50s. No college education. So it's never too late. Isn't that an awesome story to tell? Start now. Oh my God.
Yeah. Absolutely. Never too late. And one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about it and I want to tell my story is because it is never too late. It's not too late to learn about cannabis, just if you want to use it as a patient or help friends use it or family use it. And it's not too late to learn so much about it that you can really spread the word. And I'm 70. I'm 70 years old. And I don't feel like it, but I certainly am. I can't refute it. As my husband says, you're not gonna get younger. You better do it now. And, it's,
And
That is
Barbara,
amazing.
it is amazing. And I just want to tell you that it was a 70-year-old nursing colleague friend of mine back in 2014 that told me to get with the program. When I was sick, I was suffering on multiple pharmaceuticals. 70 years old, she had been using cannabis every day since the age of 17. Her father was a pharmacist and carried cannabis in their pharmacy. So she was really seasoned. It was really, really amazing to have that connection with her and for her to educate me on that. So just like we said, you're never too old to learn something. No, ever.
It doesn't matter if you practice for a day or for 10 years or for 48 years, you can make an impact with what you do in one single day. So I applaud you for stepping in. And, most people would say, maybe it's time for retirement. Well, that's not the R word that I identify with. I want to remain relevant, not retired.
Relevant. I mean, yes.
Everything's great. You retired. Good for you. That's great. I have things to do. You have things to do. So here we are.
Right. Here we are.
How did you get into cannabis?
I have to preface it by saying I always believed cannabis and other alternative therapies were viable. And particularly cannabis. I went to college in the 60s, so I've had some exposure. I was one of those people that really explains why you don't just use anything that happens to land in your pocket, right? At that time, we got little plastic bags from whomever, and we didn't know anything about what was in it. And clearly I got a hold of a really strong sativa, and I was so paranoid. I had my husband put me in the car and drive me around, and we were in Ithaca, New York, because we both went to Cornell, and roll the windows down and have the cold air blow in my face. And I wouldn't go home because I thought the cops were there.
Oh my God.
I hate to laugh, but I've had that.
Oh, you can laugh.
Me too.
Oh my gosh.
Now that I look
have
back,
an experience with Rick Simpson oil. Yeah, I know, right? The scare.
And I'll just do an aside. Ounces were $20 then.
Oh my gosh, I know. I know.
Yeah.
I'll talk about inflation.
Yeah.
We finally, we were on this newly married on this very little teeny budget. And he said, okay, all of our gas money is gone. So we're going home. That's how he got me out of it. So he said I had to go home at that point. And there were no cops there. So, and then I took a long hiatus. Didn't use cannabis again for a really, really long time. I was married, having kids, blah, blah, blah. So had some other things to do.
Yeah. That's funny. I had that same experience too, Sherri. I had a long break in between, pretty much the same thing, raising a family. And I had that issue that when I used it, say I went in the military. For 6 years, I didn't use it from 17 to 25. And so when I got out, I tried it again, and I would get paranoid every time. I would have that panic attack, and it was horrible. I'm a trooper. I kept going. I tried it like 6 times, and that was it. So it was a good 30-year span before I came back into the cannabis space. I was agnostic. I don't know about you. Well, you probably were too. It's like, I don't care if you use it. It's just not for me right now.
Exactly.
I was kind of like, whatever, so in high school, if you passed me a joint, I'd smoke it. If you handed me a beer, I'd drink it, so I was just kind of went with the flow, just kind of went with the party crowd. And then in college, I experimented with it a little bit more and had fun with it, but it was just like, whatever, it was the drinking and just having fun. And then, same thing, got married, had kids. And then if we were ever out and someone had it, I'd be like, pass that this way, and I would do a little toke and and it was really fun. Yeah, but truly didn't understand the power of the plant and never thought of it as medicine, ever as medicine, until I was sick and suffering. And the 70-year-old nurse introduced it to me once again as medicine.
I had absolutely no clue. And in the interim, I worked for a traditional pharmaceutical company after being at the bedside for such a long time and being in management for a long time. I then went to work at SmithKline Beecham.
Mm.
And, one thing I have to hand them is that they did use cannabis extensively in their medicines before 1937.
Mhm.
They have all sorts. They had a case, a museum case, and they have all their little bottles that had cannabis in it. And I stayed there. I was in the immunology vaccine division and did public speaking for them. And I figured if I can talk about immunology, I can probably talk about cannabis if I learn it.
Right.
And a colleague of mine lives in Rhode Island. He decided to open his 2 cannabis dispensaries and a grow, and he did. And he said, you did all the educational materials in the immunology department. Do you think you could come help me and do the education? So I did. And I got very interested. He said, oh, by the way, Pennsylvania is going to go legal here pretty shortly. Can you believe my Shih Tzu is dreaming loudly in the background?
Oh my God, the little Shih Tzu.
That's a great dream, whatever that dog's having.
And so because of Radaba, I got into it. And he still owns a dispensary in Rhode Island and the grow. And they operate very differently, or at least they did at that time, than we do in Pennsylvania. You were assigned to a dispensary. And I guess at the time they could only go to one. Now I think that's opened up a little bit. And he and his son actually have dispensaries in Massachusetts too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
wow.
That's how I got into it originally. My husband always calls himself an early adopter because he was definitely very much more into the scene in college and when I met him. So, so it's been a really long ride. And one of the reasons that I do it and I continue to do it, well, there are 2, and you mentioned retirement, and I'll address that in a minute, but I really want people to understand that it's not too late, no matter how old you are, as long as you can participate and learn. And, and as long as I can do that, I'll do it.
Me too.
As for retirement,
I'm with you.
I think cannabis is making us all smarter.
I think so too. I think so.
I do. For sure.
I would vote for that.
Yeah.
I would too, for sure. So what are the different positions? So you've been in the cannabis space for how long, and how, you've been working different positions, right? So I want to
I've been studying and learning for about 15 years.
Nice.
And a lot of that was reading, doing some writing. I too had the very big privilege of writing a chapter for Carrie in her handbook. And one of the thrills of my life and something I wanted to check off my bucket list, but it's not the last book I'm going to write. So, my chairman of my defense committee is already saying, this is how we're going to publish this, and then we can expand it into this. And I'm thinking who God?
Yeah.
But, I mean, she gave me that opportunity, and I will be forever indebted. And she's also on my committee, for which I am incredibly grateful. So other positions, it was a really interesting story. I attended as many conferences as I could as it became more clearly going to pass in Pennsylvania. And then we had all sorts of different conferences. And so I'd go to these conferences. And one day, about an hour up the road, I went to a conference and the president of ACNA spoke. And, we listened. And then there was a time for questions. I asked a whole bunch of questions. And afterwards, Eileen came over to me and said, you need to come and get elected to my board.
Yes.
And so, and she's responsible for a lot of people being on those early boards, I think.
Yes, she is.
And I said, I'd do it. Yeah, I would apply, but, people didn't know me. I didn't think that I would do it, but I did get on and just stepped down this past December. It's a volunteer board, so it's a huge amount of work, but I really enjoyed it. And I had the membership committee, and we did, I think not necessarily because of me, but we did end up with a lot more folks that were interested and wanted to be members. So I stepped down, and Michael Harvey's doing it now, but I'm his first assist.
Oh,
nice. Yeah. That's awesome.
And Michael's such a great guy too.
He is a great guy.
And a compelling story as well.
Yep, he's a veteran. He's a nurse.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah. He told me he was here. We were talking, and the thing about Michael is he's the reason I'm doing my research on what I'm doing it on, and then we can talk about that. But
that's what I really, to me is really, really, really important. Yeah, because Mark and I talk about all the time how anecdotal, patient lived experiences should be fueling research.
Absolutely.
Right. Because you hear patients are saying the same stories over and over and over again.
Right.
And how do we connect those dots. So I really love that you're doing that. You're going to be focusing on the lived experiences of patients.
Right. And
brilliant.
What I know is what kind of employment experiences have they had either prior to their cannabis use or when they've used, and were they aware when they got their card that they probably would render themselves unemployable for most organizations. And then as I delved deeper into that, I understood that nobody gives any informed consent. And it's not that, the big certifiers are sort of, I hate to say doc in the box, but a lot of them are. And, you sort of call up, you get on a Zoom call, and in 10 minutes you're certified. But, as nurses, none of the three of us would ever let somebody go on to a new venture without explaining it to them and helping them learn about it and helping them understand that even if they have the greatest job in the world, if there was a random drug screen or a for-cause drug screen, they may very well become unemployed immediately. And that's been, and Michael's story was one of them that really inspired me. And then we've had people lose nursing license, and, just people who are working way under their capabilities simply because they can't get a job with cannabis on board.
Yeah. And you know what, Kate, what's going to happen, Barb? 10 years from now, people are going to look back, are going to say, what? People lost their jobs because of that?
Yep.
Yeah. You know what?
That's so ridiculous. But we're not
prerequisite. At the Green Nurse, it's a prerequisite that you use cannabinoids.
Exactly.
That you're positive.
Yeah.
No, that's true. Positive.
You.
Really.
And then it was interesting. I got a call one day from a group called the Centel Group, and they were going to open a cannabis dispensary in Maryland. They actually cruised the leadership page on the ANCA, ACNA website, and they called me because I was the closest. But they said they really liked my profile. Could I come and talk to them? And so I did. And I was at Salvera, was the name of their dispensary, and it means be of good health in Latin. And I was at that dispensary for almost 3 years. And then I'm a conservative cannabis nurse. Then they made it sort of a retail cannabis store, and I wasn't interested because they were encouraging people to come in and just pick out things in the hopes that it might work for them. I don't think that's the way it should be handled. And go ahead.
So basically that's like what those concerns about how cannabis is made available to patients, right? So
for sure. I'm concerned as everything. I don't believe there's any recreational cannabis, by the way. I think there's a lot of adult use, but I always think there's a reason.
We say that all the time. Doesn't matter how it enters your body. It's medicine once it gets there.
Medicine once it gets in there. And it may just be that you don't do well at parties. You have a lot of social anxiety. I just don't think that people just do it for the hell of doing it. And, it does make them feel better, but, what is it fixing? And I sort of think that, everything does that. So I was at there for 3 years, and I became available because I left them. And very shortly thereafter, I got a call from Revolution Global, which is based out of Chicago. And I did some training for them. And then when Maryland passed the law that you had to have a clinical director, they called me right back and they asked me if I would take that position. And so that's where I am now.
That's great.
Well,
that's great. So
Smart
quick question. So quick question. So when consumers, so you're not in the retail space. How do you think, I'm just curious, what do you think that nurses would bring to the table working in a cannabis adult use dispensary? Do you think that they would be beneficial? Teaching cannabis wellness? Of
course. I think they always would be beneficial. And that I think that is the very least that a patient deserves.
Yeah.
But, you get a lot of the old heads that come in and say, I always love the guys that came in and said, oh, I've been smoking weed since the 60s. Well, clearly not, because that's not what it was called. Nobody ever thought of calling it that. Now, if they came to me and said, oh, I've been smoking grass for, however long, but it was never called weed then. And in my approach to them, because, they feel like there's nothing you could tell me about it. And I said, then sit right down here and tell me what I need to know that so I can help my patients. And so
Right.
when they sit down and I'll ask them probing questions, they'll go, well, I didn't know that.
Mm.
Or I
Right.
know that if
Right.
you put CBD on top of my flour, that
Right.
it'd work as an anti-inflammatory or something. So that's how I got them to talk to me, because we
Yes.
required our first-time patients to sit with me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
And that's
amazing.
exactly what should happen. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we've had that same experience, Sherry, haven't we? Where, someone will come in for card certification and
Oh my God.
they'll say, "Oh yeah, I've been
I
smoking
know it.
for
I know it. I
40
know it.
years. I know everything I need to know about it."
Mhm.
And it's the
Yeah.
same
So
thing. Once you start to get those probing questions,
Yep.
you
yes.
bring them
So
around to the realization that they don't really know much at all, other than that
Exactly.
they've had relief. So, yeah.
right. And so
Exactly.
that's one of the things too in 2020 with the COVID, Massachusetts is recreational and medical. And when COVID happened, they shut down the recreational, they kept the medical open. So what ended up happening, we had an influx of people wanting to get their medical cards.
Mhm.
So it was interesting. First time medical cards, no
Yeah.
matter what, I don't care how long you've used cannabis for, you get a consultation.
Mhm.
So it was really, really powerful to be working with these people that have been, oh yeah, I've been using cannabis for 20 plus years. Well, so we ask the questions. What are you using it for? So you interviewing them,
Mhm.
asking them those questions. How much money
Yeah.
are you spending? How are you taking it? Did you know this, this, and this? Did you know that if you did this, you could probably cut your bill in half? So it was really, really interesting at the end of the day, how, these people that were completely just using cannabis in one way, whether it be edibles or just smoking it,
Uh-huh.
were now open to other ways of using the various
Absolutely.
different parts of the plant in
Mhm.
multiple forms in order to decrease tolerance, to get better results. And it was really, really awesome. It was really fun. And then they also didn't know, a lot of these people, didn't know about the endocannabinoid system.
Oh
They were
God,
like,
no. nothing was-
what? We got a
Hell,
system that
most
knows.
healthcare providers don't really know about the
Yep.
endocannabinoid system.
That's true too. That's
Right.
true
That's
too.
so that's, part of why we're here, isn't it? To
Sure.
Yeah.
help that education process continue. But
Yeah.
what? I'm really encouraged, Barb. I saw today that the University of Vermont now has certificate programs in both growing and
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
in the healthcare realm. So,
They,
Yeah.
they're
they do.
starting to pick it up.
Yeah. Mark,
And-
what college are we teaching at? We're teaching at a college coming up soon, right?
Yeah,
teaching.
we are
July?
in Illinois, a community college in Illinois. Will be
Cool.
Yeah.
we'll be presenting on the endocannabinoid system. So we're
Excellent. Excellent.
excited.
Yeah.
And it's just,
You know,
it is
and I teach at Pacific, and
Yep.
I teach the very first course, the endocannabinoid system in pharmacology. And, you get people from all over the board there. Some
Mhm.
people have some experience, other people have no experience but want to. And it's just interesting. And I don't really do how you integrate it into your practice. That's the next class. But I was going to say earlier, I have a bunch of older guys guys in particular that are chasing THC, and that's all they're chasing. And so
Right.
when you sit them down and say to them, and this isn't entirely accurate, but it's a good analogy. I am a big THC hit for pain. I always say, when you use nitrous at the dentist's office and you see them coming at you with the needle, but you just don't really care. That's sort of the way THC works. But if you put CBD with it and actually works on the cause of the pain, that's the ideal kind of combination.
Right.
Some other things, but they don't feel the pain then. They feel great then, but as soon as they are not high anymore, then the pain comes back, and they can't understand why. And so that's what I do. I said, if you add some CBD, and I said, so you've got your favorite flower, it's 30%, 37% THC, and we have some of that in Maryland. We have a fantastic product line in Maryland, and so you're going to get high. There is absolutely no question about it.
Right.
But we also carried a product from Willie's Reserve, and believe it or not, a ton of his products are all CBD based. I always thought this 84-year-old was running around on the stage just high, right? But he uses a lot of CBD, and I said, so open that pre-roll. So buy your flower. Get one pre-roll because that's less expensive. Open it up and sprinkle just a little bit of that CBD flower on top. And that's how I got them started. And then they said, well, maybe, do you have CBD in anything else? And I said, we certainly do.
Yeah.
And so that's that steady stream of revenue that comes in over and over and over again.
Right. But
Yeah.
that's educated use of the plant.
Yeah. And I like for people to know, It just seems so ridiculous to me. One consult I did recently, and you'll love this.
Uh-huh.
You could see that the person had this group of bottles on the cabinet behind her, and they were all cannabis products, and they were from my dispensary. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, who let you walk out with all of that? Because she was a new user, brand new user.
Oh,
And the other thing,
sounds like me.
yeah, the mitigating factor, she had toddlers running around in the room.
Oh my gosh.
Which freaked me out totally. But I said, do you have your bill from that visit? And she goes, yeah, it was $478.
Oh.
And I bit my tongue. I don't want to criticize my bud tender colleagues, but
Yeah.
at the next staff meeting, I said, never again, never again. Because what she just took was one of anything that might have worked. And she hadn't even tried them all when I did the consult with her. And you can't return stuff, but I felt really bad. I felt like we had done a disservice.
Right.
And I warned her about child welfare.
Yeah. So you mentioned that earlier, that most folks don't let the medical card recipients know really what some of the repercussions are. Like, for instance, if you happen to have a gun license, you can't renew. If you have a medical card, you're going to get into trouble with that, because it's going to ask you if you use it on the federal form.
Yeah.
And so people don't know that.
Yeah. And our bills are swirling around in the house, and they never get passed, to allow people. I always tell them right now, they're not going to come to your home and go after your guns, but you're certainly not going to be able to purchase one.
To renew.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
And that's a concern. I mean, that's another thing they can't do. Belonging to some schools won't let you in.
Right.
With positive.
Yeah.
And I just I feel like that we owe them at least that much to let them know that. And I think that some of the people who I would prefer weren't doing certification, because I don't think they do any education. They don't want to dissuade them, because they're afraid they're going to lose the customer. That's a 15-minute, $200 fee, right?
It's the revenue, right?
And they don't want to lose that. So you don't want to call them charlatans, but
listen, there's money makers in every business.
Yes.
There's
cool.
motivation for. I mean, we have a for-profit healthcare system, right?
Yeah.
I had an MRI done recently, and it was $1,900, and the insurance company paid $900. So,
And did they accept that?
Yeah.
Did you have to pay the other? Yeah.
Oh yeah. They accepted it, because that's the negotiated rate that they have with that insurance company. So it's all just a game. It's all just a shell game for money. You're right. So nursing, I think nurses in general,
we think we bring a lot to the table.
Absolutely.
We're in it to win it. We're in it.
Well, and the thing is too, and the other thing too that's important is a lot of cannabis nurses are also patients too. A lot of us have been on the other side of the bed and have worked through the stigma, have worked through trying to figure out how to make it work. That's why I started, co-founded The Green Nurse, is because it took me 2 years to figure out how to make cannabis work for me, so I could function below the threshold of being impaired. I wanted to learn how to control my experience and using this plant, and not having to rely upon it all the time. I wanted to know all the different things that could support and nourish my endocannabinoid system. And figuring that out was such a miracle, because there's multiple ways to take care of it. And then the more of the other activities that we teach about, and as a cannabis nurses, more of the other endocannabinoid system enhancing activities actually makes your cannabis work better, and you don't need as much. It's fascinating. I just like to do it.
Well, that too. That too.
I enjoy it. It's fun. It's, it's relaxing. It's peaceful. It's that mind, body, spirit connection that gets you into flow states, creativity, optimal health, wellness. I could go on and on and on. Y'all know I'm a fan. But it is important that we do teach side effects, how to mitigate side effects, and the safe consumption. That's what we're all about.
It's hard to believe in Massachusetts, you don't have a requirement for a clinical director, right?
We do not.
Okay. So you don't know for sure when somebody goes into the dispensary what kind of education they're going to get.
You have no idea.
You have no
None.
idea.
Yeah.
So that concerns me. And one of the things you mentioned retirement early, and my goal is to retire going from one job that I like to the next one and dropping dead somewhere in the middle there.
Love it.
Right.
And no time soon. No time soon. I have things to
No.
do, places to go,
Yeah.
things to do.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We're on a mission. We are on a mission.
We're in it to win it.
Yeah, we're in it to
Change
win it.
the world.
So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about the importance of being a member of a community, because we all met. We all met at the ACNA, American Cannabis Nurses
Right.
Association
Right.
conference, in-person conference in New Orleans at the end of 2019.
2019.
Yeah.
And so, we're fast friends, all of us. I mean, I have a business partner, Barb. I consider you one of my best friends. You're just
Yep.
such a joy every time we get to connect, and, we continue to connect each other, with other people in the industry.
I introduced you to
Yeah.
Otha.
That's right. Otha Smith. He's fantastic. He's been on the podcast. He's such a great guy. And anytime I'm traveling through Maryland, I'm stopping in. So we have that.
You want to hear something funny?
Yeah.
Somebody asked me if I was his mother.
Oh my God. Well, why not? You're both,
now he calls
joyful,
me
happy
Mom.
people, right?
Yeah.
I have children that age. And I guess they assumed that I was married to a black man and that Otha was my son.
Why
And
not?
There you go.
it was funny.
Absolutely. Yeah, like I said, you're both really happy, fun people to be around.
Yeah, he's
And
awesome.
so there's an if you're a nurse, especially, I think that it's important to be a part of
a community.
organization in a community.
Oh, absolutely.
I've always
Yeah.
felt that. I mean, I
Yeah.
joined the ANA as soon as I was actually, while I was a student in nursing school, having been in business for 30 years, I knew the importance of being a member of a community in the business that I was in. So as a student nurse, I immediately joined the ANA, the American Nurses Association, and I went on to be on the board of the Mass chapter. And, so
it's very important.
It's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Very
So what do you think are some of the things, the importance of doing that?
I think that you can bounce things off of one another. If I get stuck, I have no problem in saying, I've tried everything with this person and I just can't hit on it. Can you help me out? Or what would you do? And so I think somebody to collaborate with and to bounce things off of. I think that camaraderie, like when we were in New Orleans, it was awesome. I don't know if you can see, but I have an entire room of pictures from New Orleans by one of our
was
favorite
such
artists.
a great time.
It was
It
a
really
great
was.
trip, and we loved that town. And my husband came with me.
I remember.
And so we had a blast, and we went to Terry's gallery, and we went out to dinner, and a bunch of stuff, and then we socialized with everybody else too.
And that, what I think is cool is that it was intentionally in a location where cannabis is not legal.
Right.
It was intentional that the American Cannabis Nurses Association chose New Orleans.
Yeah, we did.
Louisiana had, was not legal at that time. I don't even know if they are now. I mean, it's just.
I got to tell you. I got to tell you though.
And why would that happen? It was intentional because we wanted to establish, presence for them to know that this is a legitimate, cannabis is a legitimate medicine.
Yep.
Here is a professional organization that is holding their meeting
absolutely
in your town.
And we're on the balcony of the hotel passing doobs around.
I actually heard other people in the hotel, not ACNA members, but other people in the hotel, like whispering, "Did you know that group? Did you know that group? They're cannabis people." I heard a lot of people making that comment, and like looking at us like, do we look like normal people?
Right.
We come from Planet Green.
Yeah, exactly. And I always say to people, especially people who come in as patients and they're older people, I said, can you look any straighter than I do? I mean, I grew up with a colonel in the Air Force. Let me tell you, I'm about as laced.
My dad was a state trooper, so we come from very strict, anti-cannabis sort
very
of mentality.
Me too. My mom blocked me on Facebook and wrote me out of her will for a whole year.
I read that somewhere.
Yeah,
you, Sherri.
Yeah.
But now she's on the bus. Now she uses cannabis.
That's what I heard. That's what I heard.
A couple years, but it's a powerful story.
How much better you got?
Well,
Right.
she did, but she couldn't believe it. She's like,
You must be
what?
doing something else.
You came off of this drug. You came off of that. You're not on any drugs anymore. You're just using a plant. And she still didn't talk to me. But then it was the nun. So it was a nun that started using cannabis that we've been working with for a couple of years, who was on 400 micrograms of fentanyl that we were able to work with. And the nun even came on the show, Sister Suzanne. She's given release. She's been sharing her information. And she said, I am the least likely person that would ever use cannabis. And truly couldn't believe how it changed her life. So my mom heard that, it's those compelling stories. She heard it and it took her a little time, but she was the patient that it took me the longest to get her comfortable. It's because she was my mother. Yeah. But
absolutely. I don't know where I read that, but I was aware of that. I think that's the coolest story. It makes me wonder, my parents are both deceased, but it makes me wonder whether or not, if they had, and they had their aches and pains for sure. I wonder if I could have ever convinced them. I'm not sure I could have.
My mom was so ardently opposed to cannabis. I had a going away party. I lived next door to her for, I don't know, 30 years or more, right? It was like a family compound, and I built a house next to hers. And I had sold it, and I was moving to New York City. This was 2018. And I was having a going away party, and my mother never missed anything that I did in my whole entire life. She was my biggest supporter. She was always there. She did not attend that party because there would be cannabis there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They don't know any better. I mean, they don't understand.
She didn't. She's a really smart woman. She just, that was what, she, like a lot of people, marketed to for 80 plus years by the government in a negative fashion.
Yep.
And they have that cognitive,
that's the belief,
the cognitive dissonance that we talk about, right?
All the time.
Right. Here it is we've got the science and you can present it over and over and over again, but it doesn't matter because deep down inside, they don't feel it. They don't believe you. It doesn't matter what you say. It's still wrong.
I always talk to my seniors. I always talk to my seniors because as they come in the door, there's not a one of them that doesn't remember the two big black iron skillets. This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs.
Yes.
And Nancy Reagan's totally responsible for cannabis being up in that group.
Of course.
When I'm talking to deans of nursing schools or the curriculum committee, and I'm trying to get them to let me come in and teach, and they say, well, we can't talk about. And I said, you don't talk about heroin or PCP or crack or cocaine. We don't do any harm reduction conversations about those. And they say, well, yeah, we do. And I said, then why aren't we doing it about cannabis? Because it's the best harm reduction medicine we have. And, I can't tell you how many folks I've at least gotten really reduced doses of opioids or complete removal of opioids.
Right.
And yet there's, we'll lose our federal funding. They won't lose our federal funding. And we, Eloise and I are trying right now to get somebody to give us a document that says you will not lose your federal funding for talking about cannabis.
Oh,
that would be
amazing.
That would be really amazing.
I mean, this just needs to be federally legalized. It just needs to happen. And that's when significant change will occur.
Exactly.
It's so silly to us because we, we have been educated and we accept this as being fact. And what bothers me is, with this opioid epidemic, I have people in my life, dear friends and some family members that have suffered from opioid addiction and they're amazing people. I mean, addiction is not a character flaw. Okay.
No.
Addiction is a change in the brain. So it's a disease, and they go to the methadone clinic. And if they have any THC in their system, they're dropped from the program and kicked back on the street. That is criminal.
It is criminal.
That is criminal.
Clinics do the same thing.
Yeah.
We do. And I had a friend who has fibromyalgia and was really in bad shape. She didn't take 400 micrograms, but she did take a lot every day. And when I talked to her, she'd slur it. Now she's a little bit older than I am, but not so she can't speak. And it really concerned me. And her daughter and I did an intervention and said, Susan, don't you think that we could try this? She's a smoker. She doesn't have any problem smoking. And so I said, for bioavailability, let's just switch you to this for right now. And she doesn't, and then everybody cut off the opioids for people. She couldn't get any more fentanyl.
Right. Yeah.
And she's doing very well on that, which I'm really pleased about.
Great.
Really pleased
That's
about.
great.
So,
Yeah.
And that is the shame, because, cannabis can help with decreasing opioid addiction.
mhm.
Oh,
There are studies
completely.
that show that is the
Absolutely.
case, right?
Absolutely.
So to not be able to utilize that while you're trying to decrease your opioid use, it's nonsensical. So here we
Yeah.
are. We continue to talk about this. We're going to
Yes.
continue to talk about this with
We are.
everybody we meet. And
Yep.
that's how it's going to change. I use this example all the time. It's like, how did women get the right to vote in the United States?
Yeah. Because
It wasn't because they were carrying signs and marching in the street. It was because they convinced the white men in power that it was a good idea.
absolutely.
That's
There you
how it happened.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
So we
It's
can.
interesting. We just have to keep talking about it.
Yeah.
And
That's it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
people in
That's
the
why
industry
we keep.
who I really respect
Yeah.
feel like it's going to go this year or within a year.
Yeah.
And that federal law is
Absolutely. That's why we're doing what we're
Just
doing.
have
That's
a
why
little
we're
moment of
here.
positive energy out there.
Yeah, let's do that.
Right? Legalization,
Yes.
energy. I'm vibing that into the universe.
That's right. That's
Woo-hoo.
right.
Right?
You
So
know,
basically,
sorry.
so
Sher,
one
go
of the
ahead.
questions, so I had asked Barbara, to send us a couple questions. And one of the questions I was very curious about, and I have it highlighted right here, so I don't want to forget it, because I want to hear your perspective. Is legal cannabis really legal?
No,
See that?
I don't think so.
All right.
Well, look at this scenario. You go to apply for a job. You're on Percocet and Vicodin, alternating doses.
Mhm.
And when your cannabis, when your drug screen comes back, you've got your offer, because they have to do a pre-offer now. You've got
Yep.
your offer. And when your drug screen comes back, you hand them the prescription that your doctor wrote you.
Right.
Everything is cool.
Yep.
Hunky dory. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Start tomorrow.
Yes. But if you just have a medical cannabis card, it's a no-go. And I've talked to HR people who said that it's the most frustrating thing in the world to find the ideal candidate. So we interviewed Mark. He was perfect for this job. He's really interested. He has the skills. He's got the education. Go through the whole process. Do the pre-offer. He likes the money. You like the candidate. And then his drug screen comes back. And because of your company's policies, then you're not able to offer him a job. And that's
Right.
because HR people think that cannabis equals THC equals intoxication. They don't have any idea about any of the other. I mean, I recently read 164 cannabinoids. I'm going to stick with 111 for right now. But
That's a good number.
yeah, we've got a really wide range. They're not all in the United States, but we see them come in periodically. I've got a lot of THCV all of a sudden in my state. And, for
Nice.
people who are diabetics and are really having a lot of difficulty watching their blood sugars, that works well. So they're trickling in. And I explained that we don't have everything. But as they come in and I learn more about each one that comes in, we can really, we can give them the medicine they need. Do they have to have THC in there? No, they don't. And so I just think that until it's really legal, it's not legal.
Right.
Until there's no penalty for using it, it's not.
When you can cross a state line, when you can bring it on board an airplane, when you can travel, and then it's truly legal. It's like you have a driver's license, you can drive your car in all 50 states, right? So if you have your medical card, you should be able to carry it in all 50 states.
All 50 states.
Because it's your medicine. It is your medicine.
Yeah,
I agree.
I know the guidelines for doing it responsibly, and that I always go over. And as I said, I have a whole slew of things I talk to everybody about. The child welfare issues, you're not protected for your employment rights, the gun thing, the fact that you should journal at least at the onset. I use a lot of recommendations for tetragram because I think it's an easy one.
It is.
My son, right?
Otha has a great product. Yeah, it is. So tetragram is a journaling app that Otha Smith has put out there, and Yeah. I highly
Journaling's great.
journaling, because Sherri, it probably wouldn't have taken you 2 years
if I wrote it down.
if you were journaling, hey, this one worked for me. This one, okay, I feel a little bit better. That journal in the beginning, right, Barb, is just
it
so
happened.
important.
So because I didn't write it down, so you think about it, you go into different dispensaries, they have different products, there's different names, different strains, different this, that, and the other thing. And so I would find myself purchasing something, not liking it, maybe giving it away, tossing it or whatever, saving it, putting it, doing something with it, but forgetting about it. And then 2 months later, going back to the dispensary and buying the same thing.
Buying it again. Yeah.
And they should catch you if you're at the same
familiar.
dispensary.
Yeah.
If you're at the same dispensary, they should catch you about that and say, you had this a couple months ago. Did it work? It must work well.
Right.
I also do not believe in the names. I find them ridiculous. Totally ridiculous.
I think
that's not.
They make me laugh. I look at it as
they're not
entertainment.
medicinal names in any way, shape, or form. Right.
The first time I had to recommend cherry orgasm to a 72-year-old woman, I was like, oh God. I said, don't judge me. That's the name. So I encourage my patients to know their cannabis profile. And in fact, we have wallet cards. I need this much CBD and this much THC. And I really like these terpenes, but pinene sends me over the edge. And so I said, put it in your wallet. If we don't have a product that's good for you, if you can't match it up with your profile, go to another dispensary.
Now, what shocked me when I was at a medical cannabis conference abroad, what shocked me is one of the people that was speaking is the head of a very large cannabis research company, and he was talking about one of the statements that he made was, we are cataloging right now over 550 varieties of cannabis, and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, that's 550 different varieties with different chemical constituents that all interact together, right? So, man, no wonder it took you 2 years to wade through that, Sherri.
And
we don't even have all of those,
16.
Right? We have a small subset of it, right?
Yeah, it's the interesting thing too about me trying to figure it out, and this can maybe apply to some new people that are out there, was that I was plagued with stigma around microdosing multiple times in the day, using different varieties of cannabis. So not only, doing topicals, tinctures, either an edible or a gummy or an oil or whatever, and doing inhalation. So I was like, all I'm doing is trading 18 pill bottles for 18 different ways of using the plant. But in essence, it was really, really different. Because that one plant that I purchased, once I figured out how to make it work, I could buy the ounce of weed and use a little bit for inhalation, a little bit, making that raw tincture, decarboxylating, making butters. So really like learning how to make this plant and using a little bit, multiple different ways.
Exactly.
Right. How to get through that stigma. Because when we talk about the endocannabinoid system, as we do every day, it's an on-off switch that's going on and off all day long. So it doesn't make sense that you would just do a big giant friggin' brownie, just like little bits, or doing like 10 bong rips, maybe one little rip of the bong, a little bit of tincture, a little bit of butter or something, whatever you put in your coffee. And then you're off for the day. It's like the micro dosing, little bits throughout the day.
Really.
So that was one of the, but interesting enough is that I was stigmatized by that because I was comparing pharmaceuticals to plant medicine, and they're not even in the same universe.
I mean, honestly, I think that's what makes it hard for physicians to really embrace this. Unless they go full tilt into it, it's hard to have your feet in both spaces, right? You're trained for pharmaceutical medication and it's intense training. I mean, it's a long period of time. And then to try to step into the world of cannabinoid medicine, which is a completely different way of operating. I just think it's so hard for these providers to make that leap, and that's part of the issue. But I think,
I agree, and it's a really complicated science. I mean, I don't support at all to know everything there is to know about the endocannabinoid.
Me neither.
Yeah, and one of my philosophies is if there's a day that you get up and you don't learn anything, it's not a good day.
That's right.
I like it
every day,
at least a little bit. At least,
and that's the other thing too. Is like one of my favorite sayings is the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's endless, it's constant, it's changing, it's evolving. If there's new things every day,
Yeah.
that's what makes it exciting and fun. And,
Yeah.
and we're
So
so
great segue right there, Sherri, because okay, so what's the future look like, Barb? What are you gonna
yes.
do? Where do you go from here? Like you're on fire. You're getting
For
that
me
concrete.
personally,
Yeah, you personally.
although I have a master's in public health nursing, I'd
Mhm.
really like to have a master's in public health. If my husband can hear me, and he'll come in and smack me over the head with a book here in a minute.
Hopefully it's one you need to read.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I'm going to reorient myself. I'd really like to write a program for HR policymakers and help them understand what's going on. I think there's an opportunity for laboratory scientists to be able to decipher which cannabinoids are being utilized. That may be something that HR people can really use. And I totally agree. You don't want to be intoxicated if you're doing a very safety sensitive job. Nor do I want somebody to have Percocet on board or Valium or any of those things. So, like I have a 38-year-old who is 6'1", long blonde, beautiful hair like yours, Sherri. And at 15, she realized that pot would calm her anxiety. And she had somebody she trusted that she got it from. And then we fast forward. So she had figured it out, and she knew that she had to get it from the same person all the time because she couldn't get a hold of something else. She was afraid to. And the only thing we changed when we became legal is I said, perfect. I just want you to get a card and go to a dispensary so we know what's in your product. That because I consider, there's the black market, the gray market, and the white market. And I don't like the racial overtones there, but it's not the guy on the corner. That really doesn't work. You don't know what's in there. The guy at Wawa or Royal Farms or 7-Eleven, you don't really know what's in those products either. But at a dispensary, you really do. And then there's those vetted
caregiver.
Yep, and the caregivers.
The caregiver community has been really a powerful community in Massachusetts.
Yeah,
big caregiver community, big push. Yeah, and the caregivers are really, really responsible because it's a big medical community here in Massachusetts for sure. And the caregivers are the caregivers could probably write a bunch of the laws and set standards for other companies because they've been doing this for such a long time to help patients.
Right.
They take particular interest in how they cultivate organically in the different ways and the nutrients. They pay attention to the extraction processes.
It's science.
They take it seriously. So I think there's a lot for us to learn. That's like where I learned the majority before I discovered ACNA and the CNN. And I learned everything in the field in these communities, these caregiver communities, because I needed to figure out how they did it every day. How do you do this every day? And how do you function? And how do you make it work? And how do you make stuff? And so that's what I really love is that there's something for everyone. And in the caregiver community, like truly embraces us as nurses, and they see us, they're like, oh my God, you can talk to my aunt. So a lot of people in the caregiver community, their families are either for it or against it. And so now that they have like a nurse that's hanging out with them, that's learning,
I want to bring
it just makes
in. I get that a lot. Can I bring my grandma in?
Yeah.
And I said, well, the way that you have to do it is to have her become a patient, but will I talk to her? Absolutely. I don't care what you have in terms of patient cards.
Oh yeah.
I'll always talk to you, and they can stay in the front of the dispensary, or we just got a picnic table with a big umbrella that I'm going to do outdoor consults.
Oh, that's such a good idea.
We're going to have a green nurse event down on the farm coming up.
We can, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And so I don't know what's next for me, Mark. I want to get this done. My goal is by next March, I'll be entirely finished and do my little walk across the stage.
Yes.
I'll be limber enough to be doing that. And
you'll be limber enough.
I will. And then after that, as long as I'm learning, I'd like to do some writing. I'd like to do some collaboration with Carrie or others and sort of put together more information or programs for HR people, or let's get it into every nursing curriculum in the country so we can fulfill those 6 goals that NCSBN does.
Right.
So I think that's next.
That'll be a game changer.
Play with my grandchildren.
That too. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely. And that's a high priority for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. We had a
I'm
ghost
ready.
baby, which I never held until Easter.
Oh,
So that was,
that's right. I remember that. I saw that on Facebook.
yeah, and he
Congratulations.
knew us because we FaceTime every other day.
Right.
He knew our voices, and to see his face go, I know who you are.
Hello.
And when we
Oh,
actually
so cute.
yeah, so that was wonderful.
Oh,
Oh, that
that's
is.
so
That
awesome.
is.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So if people need to reach out and get a hold of you, where can they find you, Barb?
They can find me. I have one phone number and one email, and I'm certainly willing for you to post that at any point, or I will. My
Sure.
email is not hard. It's ochesterBarbara1010@gmail.com.
Yeah,
So,
Great.
we'll have that all up in the show notes. Yeah, we'll definitely
And,
add that.
yeah,
to
and
this.
it also in the show notes right below, I
Yeah.
have Barbara's social media profiles on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So you can
Beautiful.
also find her there and follow her.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I'm not sure
Barbara,
if I'm active in any of those because I don't have the time, but that's one thing I'll be doing.
yeah, good, good.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So Barbara, really, really an honor to have you on. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I hope we spread this far and wide. Please share this video. More people need to understand that it's not too late to start something new, and it's not too late to embrace your health and your wellness and to live your best life.
And to live your best life and make a difference.
Absolutely.
Barbara,
Make a difference.
you make
Yeah.
a
So thank you. You make a difference.
I hope
Yes.
so.
And
we
everybody who
appreciate you.
stopped by, everybody who stopped by, if there are questions, we'll ping you. Somebody wants to know about resources in New Jersey. Yeah, oh yeah, we got resources there.
Yep.
Listen, we got a lot of stuff. So we'll reach out to you. Thank you for being a part of.
Thank
the
you
Nurse
so much.
Community.
Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks for being a part of
And we'll
this.
see you in Albuquerque, right?
Oh, you know it. I
Yeah.
can't wait. Yes, the
And-
ACNA conference in October, right?
Right,
Gonna be great.
October
Yes,
15th,
yes.
I think, yeah.
Excited.
Excellent.
Yeah. Well,
Excellent.
I'm married to a cannabis nurse, so of course.
So I understand, Mark Worcester. I must say,
All right.
when I first read that posting, I was like, oh.
Oh, yeah, 30
There you
days.
go.
30 days to married. So yeah, we got a book coming out.
How many days?
We were 30 days. We chatted for 30 days and then got married.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, we're definitely going to write a book about that experience.
So my husband and I knew each
I'm
other
part
3
of the
days
book.
before we lived together. Yeah.
Yeah, so
my
you
husband
lived
was in
for
on
3
day
days and
4.
lived together?
Yep. Day 4.
See?
What?
When you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I met him one night and I had a date. I was in a city where there were 5 men to every woman, which was quite the ideal.
Wow.
And I went out with a friend of
Oh,
mine,
not me.
and it was cool.
Yeah.
And I called my boyfriend of 8 months and told him that I wasn't going to be seeing him anymore. He was pissed.
Well, I would think so. Yeah.
And Bill came over the next day, and must have been the right decision. We'll be married 48 years.
Whoa.
Hey, do you think it's going to work out?
It might. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. Right. We learn something new every day.
Yeah, you do. And may you have the same marriage, Mark, because
I do.
we have had a blessed.
I am blessed. My wife is a rock star. Sherri knows because, Sherri's my work wife and we're all just the greatest.
One big happy, big love.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's it.
That's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful.
All right.
It is. It's
I look forward to seeing you both.
We'll see you there.
Thank you for having me.
You will.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks for being here. And thanks for stopping by, everybody. We will see you again tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sherri and I will be here. And tomorrow is history. So
tomorrow's History Day. That's it. Absolutely.
Yep. Throwback Thursday.
Throwback
Thursday. See you then.
Okay.
We'll see you then.
Thanks.
All right,
everybody.
Bye.